It's always safe to say, I suppose, when a play is running on Broadway, that the majority of the people watching on television, by definition, haven't seen it, simply because how could that many million people? And this is one of those cases where there's no way that you're the person I saw on the stage. And I know that isn't the goal of acting, to simply disguise yourself, but it's simply a miracle in the case of a great actor like yourself, that besides all the thrilling things you do, that there's no apparent similarity anywhere that I can see between you and everything I saw on the stage at Amadeus. Is that, have you had that experience with other people? Can you meet someone and say...
It's very unnerving, and perhaps you feel it a little bit, to have related strongly to a performance and assume that that is revealing a great deal about the real man. Sure. And then you suddenly meet the real person and you're slightly at a loss because he doesn't sound the same, look the same, or behave the same, or move the same, any of those things. However, that being so, I promise you that the character of Antonio Salieri, who you were looking at for 2 hours in Amadeus, was played by me and does contain a lot of me in him. That's part of acting, and I think a great part. When I started off acting, not having had any formal training, just having played a lot of parts at university, I thought acting was all about putting on beards and moustaches and fancy costumes and doing funny walks and funny voices and doing everything to disguise oneself. The sort of thing Olivier did when he was a young man. Well, if you ask him what happened, he'll say that halfway through his career he realized that he didn't need that false nose and he didn't need those false calves he used to wear, you know, underneath his tights to build up his legs.
Oh yeah, there's a word for those, I think.
False calves.
That's it.
And you know, you don't need the extra heel on your shoe. You are what you are, and you go out onto a stage using what you have been using all your life, because that is the thing which I think in the end is much more potent than something temporary like a quick moustache or a quick funny look or a funny walk. So actually, when I was being Salieri, I did look remarkably like myself, but there was something about the words and there was something about the inner intensity which I brought to them, which deceived you into thinking that I and Salieri are not alike, but actually we are quite alike, even though I don't go around trying to murder people, which he did.
Well, I suppose it stands to reason that an actor gets whatever he uses from inside himself. If not, then where does it come from?
Well, there are a number of actors, and I was one of them when I was younger, who looked anywhere except inside myself. And I think once actors should not generalize, I'm just talking about myself. Once I realized that I had inside myself everything that was required for almost every part ever written, even as an extreme a character as Macbeth, who's a mass murderer, thank you, or any extreme person, good or bad. Once you realize that the potential to be that is inside yourself, then acting becomes easier, it becomes releasing, and you become your own psychiatrist in a way.
Is everybody theoretically born with all those potentials in them, or?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And it's the veneer of civilization and upbringing and the restraints which we put up on ourselves or have put on us by society and habit are very easily broken through. I mean, the stories of people in extremis in concentration camps or locked up and tortured for, you know, a couple of days, break all those things down very, very quickly, and people are revealed to be shambling wrecks or whatever is required by the people who are trying to change them. And I think you can, with a little diligence and searching, and the help of a playwright who gives you words and things to use your imagination on, you can reveal to yourself that, yes, you have enormous potential.
Is it particularly healthy in any way to call upon the murderer in yourself when you play Macbeth? Is it
well, it has two effects. One, in that I sympathize with real life murderers. I mean, I see that they haven't been as lucky as most of us to feel the constraints of upbringing and personality, and they are abnormal, but they are not all that different from me, and therefore I'm not one of those people who goes about saying the way to deal with murderers is to hang them, because I think, well, I might be the next candidate for that treatment. And the other thing is perhaps having indulged a few fantasies that do creep around at the back of the brain. I mean, we must all at one point in our lives have thought, I want to stop that by killing it, even if it's only a dog that's yapping at the heels. Maybe an actor releasing that energy in rehearsal and those fantasies in performance will not be as inclined as other people to release them in real life. That's just a fervent hope. I don't think playing a murderer makes you think more and more about how you might be a murderer in real life, in other words.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder how that would work in prisons. I guess everybody knows by now that prisons turn people out worse than they went in, but we don't seem to have an alternative. I wonder, you know, there's a thrilling thing by, why is it you always have to stop and think, Dostoevsky or Tolstoy. Dostoevsky, I think about it. I think he's theatrical in a Siberian prison.
Well, and there was the play about Marasad, which was being performed by the inmates of an asylum. I'm not quite sure for what reason now, but certainly at school, to take something that we all have experience of, it's certainly true in England, and I guess in America, that drama, plays, releasing a child's imagination, encouraging his fantasies in relationship to other people, always, I think that's an important thing, can make a child race ahead. It can stimulate his mind, it can get him interested in all sorts of subjects he wouldn't otherwise be interested in. I know teachers in England who would like to teach the whole spectrum of the syllabus, math and geography and certainly history, even the grammar of the English language they would like to teach through making up plays and putting themselves into situations. Dramatizing is what we call playing, isn't it, that when we're kids? Yeah. And of course, drama is a play. It's the same word, play acting. Yeah. So there's no mystery about acting. The trouble with most people is that the older they get, the less conscious they are of playing, of play acting. And we all play all day long. You know, from the moment you get up, you're one thing with the person you've been sleeping with, and you're another person to the to your boss in the office, and another to the girl who serves you coffee at the office, and you're somebody else to the cab driver. It's a different side of your personality, which we all play. Yeah. And yet the people who do that will come up to me and say, "How on earth do you do it?" Well, I do it like they do it.
But they're right to ask you that, because the minute they step on stage, they don't know what to do with their hands, and they don't look, and they sound phony, and they can't act.
But
otherwise,
we know
everybody
plenty of actors like that, don't we? No, it is. Because
they don't associate the two.
Yes,
at all.
I know. Well,
and many actors don't. And even I've been interviewed sometimes by people who, even in an office, who are from a newspaper, will say, "Okay, let's start now and declare the interview started. Do you feel that in your..." and this, in the privacy of a room, their voice changes that much. You know what I'd love to use you as a test for? Not long ago, I saw some amateur theatricals. And I was watching a girl who was not bad, but it was clear that she was an untrained beginning actress. And yet, she had worked on it, obviously, and she was giving it her all. But there were little subtle things, and I couldn't figure out what they were, that made it clear to anybody who walked in that this girl was acting for maybe the third time. If you had to play a guy who's doing a scene from something you know, and the director said, I don't want it to be awful, you know, I just want to make it clear that the guy's an amateur. Just subtly make it clear that he's an amateur. Maybe doing Henry V when he shouldn't.
Let me just be clear what you're asking me before I say whether I'll try and do it.
Okay.
That I should pretend to be an actor who isn't very good, or
who is just not bad, but inexperienced and an amateur.
It's so far from my own experience, Dick, this, that I
You've
don't
never
think
been?
I can do it. And I'm not going to try and do it because I
You know, I'll tell you what I mean.
I'm not frightfully good at that. You do it.
No, I can't do it. But I remember I was just thinking, there's just something about
Yes.
the way she's standing
Well,
that isn't totally wrong, and yet no one stands that way in real life. No one gestures quite that way, but I can't really quite do it.
Well,
it's
I
a little
tell- I
like
tell-
asking a good horseman to ride badly.
All right. Well, now we're talking about the stage, aren't we? Not talking
Yeah.
about film.
Yeah.
The trouble about the stage is that the audience sees the whole body. They are far enough away from it, even in a small theatre, to take it all in. And of course, because they're not engaged in the action of the play, they are there only to be an audience who listen, and indeed a spectator who watches. They can take it all in with an objectivity which normally they don't apply. I mean, we're talking together now, and apart from our opening, I've not looked at your shoes once. But if I were in the audience, I could still, or I with a camera, I could take it all in. So that you, trying to impress the audience, will have to be aware of what your feet are doing in a way that you don't, talking to me, have to be aware of it. And I think that's the initial problem that an actor has to solve, so that if I'm talking to you, all I need to bother about is my feet, and I can be doing anything I want with the rest of my body, and it's not really upsetting you, because you don't, you know, you're concentrating on my eyes. But all those people have seen that I'm terribly nervous back here, even as I'm gabbing on, of being very relaxed. So an actor has to somehow, it's the great word all actors use, relax. And that relaxation is a technical achievement which is to do with relating, having control over every part of their body, their minds, so that it doesn't wander, their imaginations, their face, the tone of their voice, so that all those attributes can express the character that he is portraying and the intention that that character has in speaking or in being or listening or sitting still. And when you have that total control over all your attributes, you are no longer being an ordinary person. You are then playing, you are then acting. And although it looks natural to the audience, if a member of the audience were to step up onto a stage and see a person behaving, playing in this way, once they got up to him, they would say, "What's the matter with this guy? He's behaving very peculiarly."
Seen close up.
Seen up close too. So it's all to do with distance. Now, in the movies, it seems to me, not having made very many, that's the crucial difference, that the camera is very like somebody just in the room with you. It concentrates very partially on you, usually on the face, and the body can be doing what it wants. That's why so often when wonderful film actors step out onto a stage, you have the same reaction as you did with that young girl who's only acted 3 times. You say, what's happening with those hands? They're usually twitching because they're getting rid of a lot of nervous energy, in which case you put them in your pockets. Actors also don't put your hands in your pockets. I think that's the very best place for them.